Back, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to the second hour of the Dr. Glidden Show. This is Naturopathic Awareness Month. I use October as Naturopathic Awareness Month. Last week we had Dr. Joe Pizzorno on, the founder of Bastyr University and one of the main political movers and shakers in the world of naturopathic medicine, who was very responsible, not solely responsible, but he was the engineer, the conductor of the train of naturopathic medicine that brought the profession out of really the dark ages and obscurity into the mainstream of American medicine, Dr. Joseph Pizzorno. Well, on the other side of the spectrum, we have the clinician of the naturopath's naturopath, the naturopathic physician who has forgotten more about pathophysiology than most, or if not all, MDs know. My colleague, mentor, and friend, Dr. Joel Wallach. I'm going to bring him up in about 30 seconds here. I got to tell you a little story, though, folks. I've been practicing naturopathic medicine for 25 years now, doing the clinical application of naturopathic therapeutics for 25 years. And I've been mentoring with Dr. Wallach for 5 years, more or less, a little more, almost coming up on 5 years now. Now, before I met Doc and before I became a student of Dr. Wallach, I got great results as a naturopathic doctor because it's really hard not to. What we do with naturopathy is support and promote the body's ability to fix itself, and it's kind of hard to muck that up. So I got great results as a naturopath, but I have to tell you, since I got my head out of my rear end and I put my pride on the shelf along with my ego, and I started listening to Dr. Wallach, I started paying attention to Dr. Wallach, I started giving Dr. Wallach the respect that he was due, and I started applying his therapeutics. Honest to God, I do not know what planet I'm on sometimes, because the things that I have seen people recover from under Dr. Wallach's tutelage eclipse in effectiveness by a factor of 1,000 anything that I was taught in naturopathic medical school and anything that I had previously rolled out on my own. I swear to God, Doc has forgotten more about the pathophysiology of disease than any doctor on the face of the planet knows. Dr. Wallach's knowledge base is unimpeachable, and it's unapproachable by anybody else. And it is this extreme knowledge base built upon pragmatic science, pragmatic, non-drug medicine biased research, added to decades of clinical experience, clinical application of applied therapeutics with real patients with real diseases. This is what makes Dr. Wallach's therapeutics so unbelievably effective and so unbelievably effective. And one of the, biggest, I think, overlooked things in the 21st century annals of modern American medicine is Dr. Wallach's track record and Dr. Wallach's clinical effectiveness. All things being equal, as far as I'm concerned, Dr. Wallach should be the Surgeon General of the United States, and if he was, everything would change. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce Dr. Joel Wallach. Doc, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Dr. Glidden. You're too kind. I appreciate it, all the kind things you said, and certainly very, very proud of you. You're one of the great doctors of the 20th and 21st century, so you have every right to be proud of everything you're doing to save America, so appreciate all your efforts.
Well, Doc, if I seem tall to people, it's because I stand on your shoulders, and it's not an exaggeration. It's absolutely, positively true. I wouldn't be where I am today clinically if it weren't for you. I certainly wouldn't be where I am today financially if it weren't for you. I wouldn't have a radio program if it weren't for you. And my clinical effectiveness would be good, but wouldn't be where it is today. So, we have to give credit where credit is due. Doc, man, I got to tell you, you are the man. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's interview, which is your book, Epigenetics, and kind of the science of epigenetics and the whole background of epigenetics and what that means and how we can apply that and where we can go, I'd love it if you could share a story about your, coming up in the world here in naturopathic medicine. And there was a particular one. I've traveled all around the country with you, and I've listened to stories that things have happened to you over the last 35, 40 years in your, rolling out network marketing model to the United States community and all of the negative flack that you've had to take for that. And I remember one story particularly about you having to fight a motorcycle gang outside a lecture that you gave. I'm wondering if you'd be kind enough to share that story with the listening audience.
Sure. Well, thank you. It's one of my favorite stories because it's true. When I was sort of a junior owner of my first network marketing company, I owned 49% of a network marketing company. Started out as Eagle International. It went to Soaring Eagle Ventures and then Super Life. And I was making a lot of money. I was making a lot of money because I was seeing thousands of patients a week, literally, because people were coming from everywhere. We were doing radio. It was just kind of wild, and the Dead Doctors Don't Lie thing had come out, and things were going crazy. And so I was getting thousands of patients a week. And so, as you can imagine, I was making lots of money and helping lots of people. Well, the principal, the guy who owned 51% of the business, was jealous of the money I was making, and so he stopped payments to me, and he sold my part of the business to another guy who was actually one of the partners of Arthur Anderson, the accounting company of Enron. And so and so he got this guy to come in and do an audit of the company because he wanted to go public. And this guy found out that this guy, being jealous of me, embezzled $3 million trying to keep up with the income that I was generating out in the field. He said, well, he deserved that much, and so he just started embezzling the money. Well, this guy found it, and he said, look, you sell me the company, otherwise I'm putting you in jail. So this guy sold him the company. Well, he forgot that I had a contract that gave me buy-sell rights that he had to offer it to me first before he sold anybody else. This character by the name of John Wilson, who is the Arthur Anderson partner, came up to a meeting I was doing in Kansas City and introduced himself as the new owner of the company, Superlife. And I said, really? You're the new owner? Well, congratulations. And I knew I had a battle in my hand then because they cut off my income supply, and I had mortgages of financial property all over the place. I had mortgages of like $80,000 a month on all these properties. They cut off my income. So I immediately had to start my own business, try and catch up if I could. And I said, oh, this is going to be tough, but I'll give it a shot. And so the first meeting was in Santa Cruz, California, because I had been on the radio for 5 years, and I figured I could get a good audience there. And it was a rainy day, April of 1997. And I said, come on out, because we're going to start a new company here. We're going to give everybody good deals and educate you and so forth. And this John Wilson hired 3 bike riders, skinheads, tattoos all over them. And they were wearing, it's pouring down rain, they were wearing these denim shirts with no sleeves to show off their tattoos, their big biceps. And they're handing out notices that the meeting had been canceled. And we're upstairs, there's a big meeting hall, and I could see people coming in the parking lot, but nobody's coming in the building. So we go downstairs, and the guy who was hosting the meeting was Clint Eastwood's driver, a guy by the name of Dio Roberts. And he was one of the top distributors there in the Bay Area. And so he came down with me, big fellow, and I see the guy's hand out, so I said, okay, guys, what are you doing? He said, well, we're canceling your meeting, or canceling the meeting. And I said, well, it's my meeting, you can't cancel my meeting, I'm not canceling the meeting. He said, oh, yes, we are. And they handed me one of these brochures that said the meeting's been canceled. So I said to Dio, I said, go upstairs, dial 911, tell the cops that we need 5 squad cars here because there's going to be a riot. And I just hope that he remembered when he got to the top of the stairs that he's supposed to call 911 and say, we need 5 squad cars now because there's going to be a riot. Well, I grabbed a stack of papers from this guy, and he didn't like that, so he took a swing at me. I ducked and let him have it, knocked him down, and I'm sitting on him, wailing away on him, knocking his teeth out. And the other 2 guys are kicking me, broke all the ribs on my right side, put lumps on my head. And 2 minutes into the fight, here comes 5 squad cars with the sirens going. And these cops are not happy getting out of the cars because it's pouring down rain. And so they arrested these guys. So there's three of them. They all weighed over 200 pounds. I'm about 150 pounds. So, we're talking about 750 pounds, versus 150 pounds. So they arrested them. So what are you guys doing up here? Where are you from? So we're from San Diego. What? This 850 miles difference. What are you doing here? So this guy, John Wilson, hired us to come up here and break up this meeting. So they're putting all this in the police report. So to make a long story short, we sued these guys and John Wilson in federal court for racketeering because they were breaking up our meeting and causing physical harm to try and intimidate us to not be in competition with them. That's racketeering. RICO laws. And so they heard, okay, we're going to do okay. And make a long story short, the federal judge, this lady federal judge, she looked at the police report and said to those guys, you better settle with Wallach because you've already lost the case. Okay? It'd be better off settling with him than coming into my court because I don't want to waste my time. Al, you're doomed in my court. And so the money we got from that settlement started Youngevity. So I'll get a few broken ribs and a lump on my head to start a business.
You still have the lump on your head from that fight?
Yeah, I still do have a pretty good egg-sized lump because it's scarred up my skull, I guess. I'm glad the lump's on the outside, not...
Well, it's remarkable, Dr. Wallach, the stuff that you have done in order to, just keep this train moving down the track. Now everybody, of course, is... Well, not everybody, but more people than ever are aware of holistic medicine. More people than ever are leaning in our direction. More people than ever are aware that there do, in fact, exist science-based, clinically verified alternatives to conventional medical mania. But back in the day when you started, man, you were a real pioneer in this arena, and I just can't imagine what it must have been like. I remember listening to a lecture that John Bastyr gave once, of course, the founder of Bastyr University, and years ago, he was the oldest living naturopathic doctor on planet Earth, and he looked at us in class one day and said, back in my day, when I was a naturopath, if you hadn't been thrown in jail, you weren't really considered a real naturopath, and that's how it goes. Stick around, folks. More to come with the one, the only, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome back, everybody. Check out the live video stream, the Dr. Glidden Show, THEDRGLIDDEN show.tv. Join the worldwide live chat. Our very special guest for the full second hour, Dr. Joel Wallach, the founder of Youngevity and the unrivaled superstar, actually the physician who wrote the book, literally, not figuratively, on medical nutrition, my mentor, colleague, and friend, Dr. Joel Wallach. So, Doc, one more story. I can't let you get away without one more story. Please indulge me here. Okay. There was, at one point in time, I believe, lawsuits levied against you by all 50 states in the United States for practicing medicine without a license. Bring the listening audience up to speed with that one.
Actually, that lawsuit was from all the medical organizations in each state, and they went to the state attorney general. And that's because in my original audio cassette tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, I said that Alzheimer's disease was not genetically transmitted. That's just fourth grade biology, because in 1992 there was a newspaper article reporting research that had been done by the Salk Institute and the University of California, San Diego. Big headlines in the newspaper. It said large doses of vitamin E can help Alzheimer's patients. That's fourth grade biology. There's no vitamin, no reading a book a month, no walking around the block eating more bananas is going to change how a genetically transmitted disease manifests itself. Only either killing the carrier of the gene or sterilizing the carrier of the gene is going to change how a genetic disease manifests itself in a population. So as soon as they said that large doses of vitamin E can actually make the clinical disease better, that tells you immediately fourth grade biology is not genetic. Well, I said that, and that all these state associations went to the state prosecutor and asked for a demand warrant, which they did. They served me with demand warrants, and one of them, the funniest one, was there was a guy, I was giving a lecture in Kansas City when that first happened, and this sheriff, he reminded me of Buford Pusser, from one of the movie with all the truckers. What was that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at any rate, this big old fat sheriff from Topeka, Kansas comes in with one of these demand warrants. He says, I'm here to take you back to Topeka, Kansas right now. I said, well, I got to go give a lecture. First, can I wait and read the papers after I give my lecture? He says, son, you have no idea what I'm talking about here. He whips out his nightclub, or whatever you call it, his club. He's going to beat me with it and shows me his handcuffs. You going to come peaceful, or you're not going to come at all? I said, okay, let me look at the papers. He shows me the papers. I said, oh, you're from Topeka, Kansas. He says, I just told you that. He said, the judge gave me these papers to bring you back or demand more. You got to answer to these questions whether or not what you're saying is true. If you can't prove it's true, you're going to jail, boy. I'm taking you there. I said, well, I don't think so. And this guy got mad. Smoke's coming out of his ears. He said, you don't understand. I'm going to hit you with this club, and I'm going to cuff you and drag you out here. I said, well, sir, first you better understand. You're from Topeka, right? You came all this way to arrest me, right? Yes, sir. He says, how many times do I have to say this, boy? And I said, well, you're from Kansas. Yep, I just kept rubbering. And finally I said, I'm in Missouri right now. This is Kansas City, Missouri you're in. You're not even in Kansas. You have no authority here. You're not arrest me here. And if you go to the front desk, and if I'm in Kansas, I will go with you peaceful. But if I'm not in Kansas, don't come back. He didn't come back.
So how did the lawsuits resolve? All 50 states are, levying charges against you for practicing medicine without a license. What happened?
Well, what happened was I got a certified copy of that article in the newspapers and sent a copy of my audio cassette tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, to all 50 states, all the attorney generals. 48 of them dropped the charges. 2 of them, Arizona and Michigan, insisted that I come there for a pretrial hearing to see if not the complaint by the state associations were worthy of a trial. And so I got a gang of lawyers and went there and had to give my full presentation in front of the judge with all my slides showing him how that fit into my lecture. And he dismissed each one of them, both in Michigan and in Arizona, dismissed. So all these state medical associations had to pay for my legal fees because they lost everything. And so here we are today. But, I mean, as you say, these 2 stories are just 2 of hundreds and hundreds of them over the years. And, in fact, you heard of the Quackbusters, which is the Committee Against Medical Fraud. Most people think that's a government agency. And really it was just the 6 medical doctors sitting around drinking some wine and saying, let's form a nonprofit organization. Let's go after a bunch of these naturopathic doctors and harass them and make their lives miserable. And we'll make it nonprofit so everybody will donate money and help our expenses. And one of them was by the name of Victor Herbert, another one was John Renner, and there were 3 others. And those 2, John Renner and Victor Herbert, both died in their 60s. John Renner was killed by his colleagues on the surface.
Hey, hold on, Doc. We're up against the hard break. I got to hear the end of this story. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. You don't want to miss the ending to this story. I'm Dr. Glidden, and this is the Dr. Glidden. Without people like Dr. Joe Pizzorno, Dr. Joel Wallach, it would be mission impossible. But thank God for the few and the proud who have taken a stand for your health, taken a stand against the conventional insanity brought to the marketplace and doled out as the epitome of medicine by the conventional medical society. Thank God for physicians like Dr. Wallach. So, Doc, let's finish up the story about the Quackbusters. So a bunch of MDs get together, figure out that, let's give the naturopaths and the chiropractors and the homeopaths a hard time. They form an organization called Quackbusters, and then they start dropping like flies.
Well, yeah, the original organization, and even yet today, is called the Committee Against Medical Fraud, and it became affectionately known amongst themselves the Quackbusters. But officially, it was the nonprofit organization called the Committee Against Medical Fraud. And Victor Herbert was the leader of the pack, and he was actually in a cover article in Time magazine. The cover picture was a cartoon of him jumping up and down on vitamins and minerals, bottles of vitamins and minerals. It was kind of a cartoon picture of him doing that, and they had a whole big article in there about them and all the wondrous things they do to protect the world. And he died of cancer. That's Victor Herbert. And then John Renner, he was a big, way overweight guy from Kansas City. He actually came to one of my lectures in Kansas City and was handing out papers saying what a fraud I was and trying to break up our meeting. We had a woman there by the name of Barbara Nicholson, and she was a horse farmer, big, gal and throwing bales of hay around. And so she literally picked him up by the belt and by the scruff of the neck and threw him down 3 flights of stairs. Actually had that on film. And then his colleagues later killed him on the surgery table during a bypass surgery. Another one by the name of William Jarvis, who was a professor of medicine at Loma Linda School of Medicine in California, Loma Linda, California. And he, after I started going after them, he gave up that sort of thing with the Quackbusters and became the spokesperson, the front face of the Center for Disease Control when they made news releases. His name was William Jarvis, as far as I believe he's still alive. And then Stephen Barrett was another one of their people, and he lost everything in several lawsuits where several chiropractors and naturopathic doctors sued him. And so now he lives in one of these little kind of 2-bedroom houses. It costs $50, kind of thing, a little cardboard house like a dog house. And he works out of his basement with a door on top of 2 sawhorses with a computer, and that's how he is still trying to raise havoc amongst the naturopathic doctors, but he's not being very successful.
Interestingly enough, my fiance's former employer, the Doctors Data Diagnostic Laboratory in St. Charles, Illinois, has been involved with an aggressive lawsuit suing actually Stephen Barrett and the Quackbusters, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Finally, somebody stands up and takes a swing back at these guys. And that's really the only way you're going to get a bully to cease and desist, is if you stand up and punch him square in the nose. Dr. Wallach, we could talk for literally days about your escapades and your adventures in bringing the truth of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition to the masses. But let's dig in here and talk about your newest book and one of my most favorite medical subjects to talk about, epigenetics. How would you like to start that?
Sure. Okay, well, thank you so very much. Very kind. And epigenetics, I knew about epigenetics before there was such a word, epigenetics, because I was working with Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Home Wild Kingdom show. I've been in Africa working in the White Rhino Conservation Project, caught 200 white rhino and sent them back here. So if you see a white rhino in a zoo or wild animal park, it's either one that I caught or offsprings of the one I caught. And we were moving them around to safe places throughout the game parks in Africa. And back when I was working on that in the 60s, 65 through 67, there was something they counted like 600. Well, now there is 20,400 in the wild and 700 in captivity. So I'm just really proud that we were able to save that species. And Perkins called me back in 67 and said, we've got this project. And I'd done a lot of pathology work as a graduate student while I was still in veterinary school. Wrote the first paper on a mass die-off in America from pollution. I'm sure it happened before, but nobody recognized it. Got it published, went around the world several times giving lectures on the subject. And he says, we're going to do a pathology and a pollution research on animals that die in the zoo from natural causes and people who live in close proximity to the big zoos in the United States who die of natural causes because the animals and people share the same water supply, they have the same air supply, and much of the same food. And since you wrote the first paper on a mass die-off from pollution in America, we want you to be a pathologist. So I came back from Africa, did that for 10 years, and basically did the 20,000 autopsies, 17,000 of them change, and over 454 species of animals and 3,000 human beings. And we did 10 million chemistries and 10 million slides of special stains looking for pollution as the contributor to or cause of degenerative diseases. And it turns out that pollution had nothing to do with any diseases resulting in natural causes. All the diseases that resulted in deaths from natural causes in animals and humans were caused by nutritional deficiencies. And the 1,200-page book that came out of that, 1,200 pages of all this data, is in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure, so I'm very, very proud of that. And that became the basis of epigenetics, because at that time I'm seeing diseases like type 2 diabetes in alligators. I'm seeing diseases like cerebral palsy in foxes and zebras. Diseases that were supposed to be genetically transmitted in people. Cystic fibrosis, I ran into that in 1977 when I was working at the Yerkes Primate Center at Emory University, and tracked it back using the same techniques I'd used in the zoos. And sure enough, they found that cystic fibrosis, which was held up as a classic example of a genetically transmitted disease. Mama would have, theoretically, mother would have a recessive gene. Daddy would have a recessive gene. They get together. The baby wins the lottery and has both recessive genes, and it comes out with cystic fibrosis. Well, it turns out that cystic fibrosis is caused by a deficiency of the mineral selenium during pregnancy, and because it's a biochemical problem, it's reversible even 25 years after the baby's born. I can reverse it, eliminate the genetic markers, and so on. And they fired me because they said, well, you must be sniffing glue. Everybody knows that cystic fibrosis is a genetically transmitted disease. And no, it's not. Don't I get to defend my research like a PhD does to a committee that has to defend his research? No, we'd be so embarrassed to call together a committee for that because everybody knows it's genetic, and they fired me. That forced me to go back to school, and I became a naturopathic physician. And so I could treat kids. Well, I was starving to death because the government was giving away free treatments. Although they were wrong, they were giving away free treatments, and people were going for the free treatments. Nobody's coming way out to Portland, Oregon to get treatment from a guy that got fired for being a nut, right? And so I had to learn how to deal with arthritis and high blood pressure and heart disease and lupus and Alzheimer's disease and macular degeneration, kidney failure and lupus and all that kind of stuff. Just to make a living. I was a widower at the same time. I had the poor little kids to deal with. And there's still the word epigenetics hadn't been put together. But I knew that all the diseases I was seeing in humans are the same ones we'd eliminated in animals with just nutrition. So I would use nutritional programs for my human patients, and it worked. And again, to make a long story short, about 10, 12 years ago, the word epigenetics came out. And epigenetics is simply the ability to maximize your genetic potential for longevity, for health, for fending off disease, for intelligence, for speed, for strength, all the things you want. But you're not going to get there without giving your genes, your DNA, your RNA, and your telomeres, the end caps on your chromosomes. You're not going to get there without giving them everything that your genes, your DNA, your RNA, and your telomeres require. Yep. An example would be if you have a car, we go 300,000 miles. If you do everything that the maintenance manual says to do, change the oil every 1,000 miles with a very expensive $25 quart oil. But you're a Scotchman and you say, that's, by my gosh, that's too expensive. I'm going to put 6 quarts of dirt from North Dakota in there because everybody knows lots of oil in North Dakota. And there's bound to be a little bit of oil in that dirt, and so I'll just do that. Well, that car's not going to go 300,000 miles. It probably won't go the distance that one tank of gasoline would take. It might not go 50 miles. Well, the same thing is true. If your grandmother lived to be 108 and your granddaddy lived to be 102 and they were hellions and they're drinking and smoking and doing drugs all night and never sleeping and gambling all night in the smoke-filled casinos, and they lived to be 102 and 108, you say, man, I've got good genes here. You try the same thing, you die at 48 of a heart attack. Well, that's because you didn't do the same thing, even though it was unknown to them what happened. By dumb luck, they lived in a place that had the minerals in the soil, and the food they were eating was able to protect their genes and their DNA and RNA and their telomeres from starvation. Well, if you're eating food that doesn't have those minerals in there, just simple things like cooking in oil instead of butter will kill you. And so this is now epigenetics, and I'm very proud of the committee that gives away the award for the, I guess it's the International Organic.
The Klaus Schwartz Award for Trace Mineral Research.
Exactly, research. Yeah, and so I was the first naturopathic physician and the first veterinarian to get the award. For 28 years, I've all been medical doctors with PhDs. And the awards committee that chose me that year said that I must be considered one of the founders of epigenetics because of my work with the selenium deficiency and the cystic fibrosis monkeys in 1977. And that was quite an honor to be considered now one of the founders of epigenetics. And we know that genetics is a failed medical theory, just like evil spirits causing disease and spontaneous generation and the four humors being out of balance and that kind of stuff, witchcraft. All that's gone. Well, the same thing at March 22nd, 2013, the last nail was driven in the coffin of genetics, and now pops up epigenetics, and I'm considered one of the founders. Well, why did genetics go away? Well, that's because the guy who got the Nobel Prize in 1953, James Watson, for proposing the double helix as a structure of DNA, he got the Nobel Prize along with Francis Crick in 1962, 9 years later. everybody agreed that the double helix was the structure of DNA. In 2013, he was asked by the Salk Institute and the University of California to give a status report because in 2003 the human genome was mapped out. 10 years had gone by. Nobody had prevented a disease, reversed a disease that was thought to be genetically transmitted. And so he gets up in front of this crowd, the 300 illustrious scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, heads of departments of medical schools and departments of genetics and so on. He gets up in front of this illustrious group and says, all the experiments we've done in genetics over the last 60 years have been irrelevant. You can sequence, and I'm quoting him now, he said, you can sequence 150,000 people a day that have cancer, diabetes, and other diseases thought to be genetically transmitted, and you're never going to cure anybody because all the experiments we've done, again, over the last 6 years have been irrelevant. It's not genetics. It's all chemistry, biochemistry, a.k.a. nutrition, and that's why we're not going to be able to, we've run down the wrong rat hole for the last 60 years. And, of course, he was exactly right on, and I saw that back when I was doing all those autopsies in the zoos in the 1960s. All these human genetic diseases were found in animals, and really weird stuff that should have been only in humans were found in all these various species of animals, so I knew it couldn't be genetically transmitted, but there was no such word as epigenetics back then. It is today. And so if you take all 90 essential nutrients, the 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, and optimal amounts for your body weight, again, you're going to give your genes, your DNA, your RNA, and your telomeres everything they need to maximize your genetic potential for longevity.
And that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Ladies and gentlemen, the myth of modern American medicine will persist and will, what it's going to take for it to go away is one death at a time. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden, your steadfast advocate for health, here with my mentor, colleague, and friend, Dr. Joel Wallach. So, Doc, here's the way it goes, right? Initially, the MDs say all chronic diseases are called by ill humors and witchcraft, and you need to bleed yourself to the bone in order to get all that bad stuff out, and they were wrong. Then they say that, it's all bugs and it's all germs, and even though Beauchamp says it's not the germ, it's the environment of the body, the MDs go crazy trying to come up with antibiotics to kill the bug instead of change the terrain of the body, and now we have the pandemic of antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections, and then they were wrong, and then the MDs say, whoa, it's all genetics, all your chronic diseases, they're all caused by genetics, and now the latest theory of epigenetics proves that they're wrong. When is it going to end, do you think? That collectively we are going to wake up from our genuflection, our unerring, unswerving genuflection at the altar of allopathic medicine. I mean, how many times are they going to have to get it wrong for the collective consciousness of humanity to snap out of it? Your thoughts?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head here, Dr. Glidden. Basically, what's going to happen here is that people are going to have to stop using the doctors. It's kind of like the old Noah days. You know, Noah tried to tell everybody that it's going to flood, and it hadn't even rained yet, and so nobody knew what he was talking about, and everybody drowned except his 8 immediate family members. Well, here's what's happening now. Because of all the medical stuff, the medical theory was that the reason why so many people in America are sick is because they're not getting enough medical treatment, right? So they talked the government into coming up with the Affordable Health Care Act, so more people living under the bridge can get medical care. It's going to save America. But it turns out the medical doctors, according to the Center for Disease Control, kill, injure, and infect 15 million of their customers at the workplace every year. They don't even get an OSHA ticket. In the hospitals alone each year, they cause 2 million infections, of which 90,000 die. If Iran or North Korea were to do that, we declare war on them. And here we have one trade that does it annually, yearly, and nobody raises an eyebrow. And so we're going to save a few. We're not going to save them all. But I just can't thank you enough for getting out there. I just love Fire Red and Me Now. It's just really a great title, really great stuff. And we have to point out very clearly that medical doctors are dangerous. They treat symptoms because there's no law requiring them to cure you when there's a cure available. And here's where you and I and other like-minded physicians, naturopathic physicians primarily, are making sure that you give the body the right raw materials, and the body will, in fact, heal itself. If a person is spiritually motivated or is spiritually orientated, you believe that God made us in His own image, and certainly God doesn't have hemorrhoids, and God doesn't have macular degeneration, God doesn't have Alzheimer's disease, thank goodness, and so forth. And I love it. I don't know if you've seen this. There's this new drug out for diabetes. How wonderful it is on TV. They're advertising like crazy. And 5 minutes later, there's one of these 1-800-BAD drug ads for the same drug. It causes heart attacks. 5 minutes later, the same drug, 1-800-BAD drug, 5 minutes earlier, saying all the wonders of this drug. And so, as you say, it's a herd mentality. People see these guys, these big billion-dollar hospitals. They must know somebody who have billion-dollar hospitals. Well, they've raped and pillaged their mother's bank account to get that money. And each year, according to the Institute of Medicine, medical doctors steal $750 billion. That's 3/4 of $1 trillion. That's 1/3 of the medical budget each year. 30 cents out of every medical dollar they bill their patients and their patients' insurance companies is fraudulently billed for procedures that they didn't do, or procedures they did do but the patient didn't need, just so they could pay for their kids to get in college. And Bernie Madoff went to jail for life plus 150 years for defrauding his investors of $3 billion. Here's medical doctors defraud their customers of $750 billion each year, 3/4 of $1 trillion. Not one of them goes to jail for that.
It's good to be king, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to be king. And this is what happens when a medical monopoly, a monopoly of any sort, is allowed to exist in any aspect of society. Ladies and gentlemen, fire your medical doctor now, for goodness sake. Get on board with Youngevity. Get in touch with a local Youngevity representative. Call the number given out by your terrestrial radio station. Get in touch with your local Youngevity representative and let them issue you a free pass to the undiscovered country of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition laid out for us by none other than Dr. Joel Wallach. Doc, just not enough time in the day. I appreciate you. We will have you back in the future. Until then, live long and prosper.